Let's talk cricket. Lovely cricket on the SportsMax zone. West Indies will be on the hunt to extend their lead in the 5-match T20 series against India when they play the second match at Providence in Guyana on Sunday. The Windies fought to a narrow 4-run victory in Thursday's opening encounter to take an early lead and apply some pressure to the visitors, who they haven't won a series against since 2017. That's a T20 series. Joining us to preview Sunday's match and have a look at the series as a whole, international cricket commentator Nikhil Uttamchandani, who we haven't had a link with in a while. He was enjoying himself in the MLC in the United States of America, and who knows where he is these days. Nikhil, how are you doing?
Really well, man. Great to be back on the SportsMax zone, my home.
Yeah. You know, flattery won't always get you what you want, Nikhil, but we'll take it. Let's talk West Indies cricket and let's start this T20 series. Can you give us an assessment of what you thought of the first T20 international?
I mean, I think me, along with the rest of the region, was very impressed. The way that Rovman Powell has led not only this West Indies team in the South Africa series and this one, and 5 T20 internationals, but also I'll go back to the Caribbean Premier League and the Super 50 as well. I think he continues to show why he's been trusted with this leadership position. And I'll tell you what, against a team like India, yes, there's no Virat Kohli and there's no Rohit Sharma, etc., but they're still India and they've still got some of the best players in the world. So for them to pull out this victory, I think was impressive for everyone, given the disappointing results that we've seen from the qualifiers from the one-day international series. But what I'll say is, what I saw for Rovman Powell and his team after the game was a hunger, that they weren't content with just winning one game. And I think, given the makeup of this side, conditions in Guyana and then Fort Lauderdale later in the series, the West Indies have a chance, a real chance at winning this series. And I think it's encouraging going forward into a T20 World Cup next year at home.
Yeah, for the second T20 international on Sunday, are there any changes that you would make? Rovman Powell, Jason Holder, both spoke about the fact that maybe an additional spinner would have helped in that first T20 international in Tarouba.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Looking at the slower conditions in Tarouba and then, of course, going to Providence now in Guyana, where they'll be even slower, I assume. I hope I'm proven wrong. But you have someone like a Roston Chase who's been picked in the side. He's the only other spinner in the squad. I would potentially look to bring him in. And then even if you don't opt to bat him in the top order, you can push Nicholas Pooran up to 3, where he scored that unbelievable 100 in the Major League. You have enough depth with Holder, Shepherd, Alzari Joseph, Akil Hossain, etc., that Roston Chase can play as that out-and-out spinner. So I don't think there's any question in terms of depth. I would personally like to see him because of just that ability to both stump to stump and keep things tight in the middle overs, where, as Rovman Powell correctly outlined, this series pretty much will be decided in conditions of this nature. I
think I've asked every single analyst on this show this particular question in recent weeks, and it is about Alzari Joseph. In the same way that we saw Jason Holder take a break after the World Cup qualifier and missed the ODI series, get some rest and looked quite rejuvenated for the first T20 international. And I've been looking at Alzari Joseph in recent matches. 1 for 18, none for 97 and none for 37 in the 2 test matches against India, 2 for 35 in the first ODI, 1 for 77, well, the first ODI he played, 1 for 77 in the final ODI, the second one that he played, and none for 39 in the first T20 international. And I just think he looks a little bit tired. That's my opinion. What's your thinking, and do you think a rest would do him well?
I think it's a really tough one for the West Indies selectors and head coach, etc., because Alzari Joseph has been by far the West Indies' best white ball bowler in the last couple of years across formats, and you could even argue in the test format as well. But what I would say is that I think, given how the series will go, will determine if he, can get that much needed rest. If they win and manage to win this second one in Guyana, I think you have a couple of options. You bring in Odean Smith, who's been on the sidelines, or Shane Thomas, who they've picked, similar to Alzari Joseph with that extra pace. Or, if conditions are really slow and you do think there will be a lot of spin on offer, you have the ability, with the experience of Jason Holder and the variation of Obed McCoy, and also the fact that you've got Rovman Powell there who can take pace off the ball as well, I would argue for maybe Roston Chase coming in place of Alzari, and of course not because of performance or ability, but just as you said, you take all the way back from the IPL, even the SA20 at the beginning of the year, and I find it really hard to find a 2 or 3 week period where Alzari Joseph's been off. And he's human, as fit as he is, as well as he's bowled in the last couple of years. He will get tired, and of course, it's an extremely important, I would say, 6 months to a year for the West Indies in T20 cricket, because he's going to need to lead the attack in that World Cup, and we want to see him firing in the CPL. So I do expect him at some point in this series to be rested for a couple of matches. I think if they can win this second one, it would help their cause a lot more.
Yeah, and speaking about winning the second one, we saw a massive improvement in the fielding of the West Indies during the first T20. How important is it that they stay alert and they keep up this level of what we've seen on the field from them?
Yeah, fielding has always been a massive area of importance, not only for the West Indies, but I would say in all cricket. And people sometimes overlook it, and we talk batting, we talk bowling, but being at the World Cup qualifiers and also seeing this West Indies team, the days where they fielded really well, it was a complete drastic difference in the way that they performed overall, whether it was in all 3 facets of the game. And I think that performance in the qualifiers was a lot down to the drop catches, if not 90 to 100% because of the drop catches, because when you put chances down against set batters, they obviously go on and they can win games against you. And Darren Sammy, in that closing press conference, of course, the white ball coach across the 2 formats, really pointed out the fielding as a major emphasizing factor. And I think he's already, you can see, has put some difference. But also credit to Sherman Hetmeyer, who caught very well after a couple of low scores with bat in hand, could have easily switched off, but instead stayed engaged. And we know in the World Cups that the West Indies have won at the T20 format, the fielding has been unmatched. We've always been the best team in the world. So I think having that intensity game in, game out, and it's not easy to do, but if we can get back there or close to, I think we can start to separate ourselves or compete with the best in the world.
Yeah, India under a bit of pressure because, you know, we know how the cricket-loving public is unforgiving when you don't win matches. And for a team like India that's getting prepared for the World Cup, of course, these fans are not thinking about the fact that they're missing 2 of their key players. Do you expect any major changes from this India squad? And is Hardik Pandya under pressure to ensure that they get this T20, the second win?
I think he won't be under too much pressure, and judging by his body language and the presentation, he understands that this is a really young team, couple of debutants, and also I think India are looking to experiment for that World Cups, and they've specifically gone in with a lot younger players, and like a Shubman Gill, like a Ishan Kishan at the top of the order, where you would used to seeing a Rohit Sharma or KL Rahul, etc. So I think they're happy to know that they will have to make mistakes to learn. And there's been a lot of discussion about selection, but 37 from the last 30 balls with 6 wickets in hand, India would back themselves to win that game 9 times out of 10. I think it was just an execution problem for them. They had 6 players in double figures, and they're playing this extra spinner has created a lengthy tail, but I don't see too many options that can come in and bat in that middle order for them. They will expect that Sanju Samson, Hardik Pandya, and others can contribute a bit more in that middle order and put up a better fight against the West Indies going forward. They will come back hard, that's for sure.
You spoke about young players in this India setup. Tilak Varma, who made 39 in the first T20 international. A lot has been made of the quality of this young man. Can you just give us a sense of why he's so highly rated?
I think the fearlessness. I mean, and India are continuing to produce them. It was Surya Kumar Yadav a couple of years ago. Now it's this young man, Tilak Varma. And the one thing I was watching for, Ricardo, was how would he transition from the Indian Premier League into international cricket? And it seemed like nothing changed. It was a tough service to bat on. It continued to get tougher, but he continued to play his shots. And you look around, even in the IPL, you look at a few scorecards, and his name is always there with a start, with an impactful contribution. He may not go on to get the big 50s or close to 100s just yet, but he continues to make a difference, and he's one that India can build around for a long time to come. It's amazing how they've transitioned from those, I hate to say it, but the anchor-type players who look to take the game to the last 5 overs and then go big, to now players like Tilak Varma, Sanju Samson, Surya Kumar Yadav, who will come at you from ball 1. So they're a young team who, you know, are at risk of losing this series, but I think they'll learn a lot from being in these slower, tougher conditions than what they'll be used to facing in India. And they can really be a force to be reckoned with at the next World Cup or even the one in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, you use the word fearless to describe the young man, and that is exactly what he is. Second delivery he faced in his T20 international career, and he took it from probably just outside the off stump and swung it. And I say swung it, but it looked a lot more delightful than that over the square leg area all the way for 6. He is fearless. Nikhil Uttamchandani will all be watching on Sunday the second T20 international, West Indies versus India. Take care.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, Lance and Mariah, the West Indies with an opportunity to put more pressure on India. Although, as Nikhil pointed out, I don't think Pandya is under any serious pressure. And even at the end of the last game, he didn't seem too disappointed by the defeat, because I think he feels that they have the quality to still win this series.
Yeah, of course they have the quality, and I think then the next match we're going to see that quality. They're going to make the changes, and I keep reminding the people there's no Rohit Sharma, there's no Virat Kohli, so India isn't too worried. There's a reason why they aren't there in the first place, of course getting the rest that they need. But this team is going to come stronger. I think they're going to make a couple of changes, and it's going to be a difficult one for West Indies.
You know why I want the West Indies to win this series so badly?
Because we're West India.
No. It's not just that, and clearly this is happening because of where West Indies is at the moment in the international landscape. But you have India coming to the Caribbean, and from the one-day international series, they have decided that their best batsmen they don't need to play. So Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma played the first one-day international. Sharma batted at, 6, I think. Kohli didn't bat at all because they didn't think they needed them to chase 114. And then for the other 2 ODIs, they didn't play them any at all. They are here still. They didn't play the first T20 international. They are experimenting against the West Indies team because they do not see this West Indies team as a real threat. Now that disappoints and hurts me for sure, and so from that standpoint I want the West Indies to win as many of these matches as possible and hopefully the series and put a little pressure on the Indians.
Yeah.
The only issue is the West Indies consistency, because you know they play good games occasionally, and then they play a lot of bad games. So they had a good game in the opener, and we just have to wait and see how well they'll play in the remaining 4 games, because inconsistency has been a serious problem with West Indies cricket teams for decades now.
Yeah, and that's why India feel they don't have to play their best 2 batsmen. We take a break. I'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.